fuck with me.
Yeah, that's sweet. I'm not sure about our lighting now. I don't know, it's natural, it's fine.
Du naturel.
Natural. Yes. You ready?
Ready?
Right, so I'm here with Nelmes today. Main mentor, the man who sparked the fire, especially in my journey. Started with work experience. Started with a talk in school, actually, coming into school, which was crazy, which sort of fueled everything. Now I sat here, I got 3 questions and 3 questions only. The first question is, obviously you sat in rooms with, people way above your league, especially starting off.
Yeah.
What did self-belief look like when you first started, and how did you almost make yourself aware and make yourself big enough and create your own chair in these massive tables of people?
It's a really good question, and actually it's framed beautifully, because a really important thing is to keep sitting across from tables from people who are 5 years, 10 years ahead of you. I think it's really easy. I think maybe if there's a doubt when you start building business, or you want to get to a point where you're kind of refilling that ego, you may seek out opportunities to spend time with people that are perceptively lower than you in terms of the journey, because you want to feel good. It's like, like
an ego boost, right?
Yeah, 100%. So you've always got to seek being around those people that are 5 steps, 10 steps, 15 steps ahead of you. I think that is so key. And sometimes, like we've said here, it's just about environment. It's not necessarily about asking them the right questions all the time, but just witnessing how they act and how they do what they do. I would say in terms of generating self-belief, the most important lesson that I probably learned a little bit too late, but I feel like I say that about all of them, is that stop trying to find the trick, stop trying to find the one tip, stop trying to wait for the right moment, and just start generating evidence. I think that's it. I think a lot of people wait for the right time. When's the right time for this? No, the right time was yesterday. Because yesterday you could have started generating evidence, but yesterday's gone, you're going to have to do it today. And that's it. Because once you start generating evidence that you're capable of something, it then starts to become believable. No one starts believing ghosts until they feel they've seen one. Right, and so if you're going to believe that you're an entrepreneur, if you're going to believe that you can be a successful business owner, you have to just start being one. So you have to make that first pound and go, okay, cool, I couldn't do that yesterday, so there's some evidence, right? Let's generate some evidence of how I can make £100 next week or something like that. So stop waiting for the right time, start generating evidence, and then you will start, that belief will build alongside it.
And you've developed this concept called the 32-hour week, which you've implemented in the office. And obviously we're seeing, or especially I'm seeing, huge changes in productivity, motivation, all of the positive things you associate with working as an office. People have this perception that almost you work harder and you'll be better, or you work for more and you'll get more success. But you've sort of counteracted this almost perception where you're saying work for 32 hours. Would you say that that's peak work mode, say? And in that 32 hours, how would you contradict the perception that productivity equals output? Output equals productivity type of thing.
Yeah, so is it the peak? No, because I think the ultimate goal is to go down to maybe like 32, down to 30, down to 28, getting to a point where so much of and I think it will stop eventually. It'll stop at the point where, okay, when are we now kind of taking away pure human, at what point are we taking time away from the real human experience of work, the things that are human? But as we're cutting down the admin sides, as we're cutting down the monotonous tasks, time should go down, because then we are leaning more into the idea of quality over quantity of time. That's what the 32-hour week was all about. It is the assumption that you give people the autonomy to craft their days and their weeks around their lifestyle. That they then become the most competitive, fierce, most energized worker in the world. And then we see the evidence, right? Because we see the evidence in entrepreneurs. Because what entrepreneurs do immediately, you're doing this already, right? Is that you're going, right, my time is mine. I'm not at school anymore. I don't have a job, whatever. My time is mine. So actually, I'm just going to craft it how I want. So if I want to work for a bit and then I want to do a 2-hour gym session in the afternoon, or I want to fish early, go play 5-a-side or whatever, or actually screw it, I want to work on a Sunday because I've got this project and it'll be so quiet and I can really work on that project. You can just do that. And you're not doing that because necessarily you're a hard worker or you're a smart worker, but you're doing it because you have complete autonomy over your time. The standard 9 to 5 doesn't give you that. You have to be in at that time, in at this time, clock in, clock out. I don't care what your hormonal cycle's doing this week. I don't care who's dying in your family. I don't care whether you have a child or not. It's like you are all in at this same time. And so it's a bit like getting all different animals of the animal kingdom to climb a tree. There's going to be, the monkeys are going to do the best and the fish are going to do the worst. So let's actually do an environment where they're all in their own environments or their own lifestyles and structures that suits them. And they just create amazing things. And I don't know whether it's funny you mention that, because I don't know whether they create amazing things because they have autonomy over their time or purely from the emotional point that they feel trusted. And maybe it's just that trust and that respect is actually I'm going to pay that back by working hard. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a combination of the two.
And we were talking about this morning, Wales as a place is lacking entrepreneurship, lacking that innovation, that almost hunger to be successful. You talk about autonomy over your own life. At what point does that clash with complacency and almost slacking off?
At what point does it clash?
At what point does it clash, as in, because we can have autonomy and we can have full control, but how do you ensure that it doesn't lead to complacency and people falling off grid and falling off their goal? Because it's all well and good saying, you can be your own boss and you can live your own life, but when does it then, produce this complacency and almost being comfortable and being like, okay, I'm my own boss, so I'm going to go to the gym and, slack off work. And because you have to have that, do you have to have a base level of work to do? Do you view it as that, or is it?
I don't think it's like a base of work. I think it's, and it's not even following your passion. It is building your business around a problem that you want to solve. And so you take the afternoon out to go to the gym because it will benefit the quality of work you give the problem that you're trying to solve. Because I've seen entrepreneurs do that, because I think the most common mistake that's made that leads to that complacency is that they start a business because it was a good financial opportunity, first and foremost. Whereas if someone wants to solve a problem and it happens to be a really good market opportunity, that's the golden point. That's where it crosses over and you go, right, you've got the perfect idea. Good example of that was Perfect Ted, the drinks we've got here. She wanted to create a caffeinated drink that didn't make her anxiety worse, didn't give her headaches. So she went and did it. It just so happened that matcha was taking off, and that now matcha is such a it's such a part of people's lives, and they really enjoy it. And so it's where those two things come across. They're one of the fastest growing businesses of the last 5 years. So you've got to mix those two things together. You've also got to have the thing that we don't have in Wales, which we were talking about earlier, which is that burn the boats thing, almost having no way back. I think that's the problem. I think and you see this, you go to America. Those guys will work like hell to make something work because actually the cost of it not working out is pretty dire. Whereas the cost of something not working out in the UK, and particularly in Wales, just isn't that bad. We've all walking around with a slight little cushion under our arse because it's like, well, it's okay. If you fall back, the system's got you. And, we end up in this scenario now where we've got more workers in the public sector in Wales today than the Soviet Union had back, when it was the Soviet Union. So, it's like we're always here to catch you. You'll always be safe. And I think because of that, nothing great came out of safety. Nothing great came out of safety.
You mentioned something about that financial motivator. A lot of young people who would probably be watching this they see the TikTok, they see the success of these young people who are all jetting off to Dubai, buying the nice watches, the nice cars. Do you think that having the reason for starting a business and your why for almost being motivated now and that burning desire, do you think it's unhealthy if it's purely financial? When we mentioned about the perfect head.
Unhealthy.
If it's completely revolving around money and the financial motivator.
Yeah, I think it is, because I think it is unhealthy because it's just a never-ending game. You can always have more money. Do you know what I mean? you can always have more money. And so the problem with that is you never get a point at which, this is something I'm learning at the moment, you never get that nice point where you go, okay, goal attained, ooh, let's sit in that for a little bit. And it's the reason with the team now, if we reach significant achievement, we'll go out, we'll have dinner together, because it's a moment to be able to say, we achieved this thing, let's enjoy the fact we achieved this thing. But if you're always financially motivated, I mean, with the exception that you probably go, okay, let's get to 100,000 revenue, let's get to 500,000 revenue, let's get to 1 million revenue. So, I mean, maybe those are your milestones, but of course it's always going to be, oh, there's that other company that's bigger, there's that other company that's bigger. And the other thing about that is the fact that I think you're more influenced by external events. So you're going to be more demotivated by what happens externally, i.e. the things you can't control. So if there's a tariff put on, this tariff war at the moment, we can't control that. And so if you see that impacting your one milestone, your one motivator, which is the money side, you go, oh, I can't control that. But of course, I've always said that if Luminesio collapses, that's fine, because I've still got the why, I've still got the purpose, I've still got the problem I want to solve, which is to reinvent what work means for people. And so I'll always have that. But of course, if the business collapses and I'm money motivated, it all drains away. But I've still got my thing, I've still got my, I just need a new vehicle. So yeah, I think it can be unhealthy. But with that said, I'd never sell someone not to, because I think if that's what it takes for that person to then go out on their own and start their own thing and be, as I say, a net contributor, contribute more to the system than you take, sure, I'm sure they'll grow up along the way.
And one last question. You mentioned about not comparing against other businesses, the success of other businesses, almost not comparing your success to someone else's. Jordan Peterson's got the quote of, don't compare yourself to others, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Would that apply to the business sense in terms of always trying to be 1% better every day? And do you find that in your company?
Yeah, without a doubt. And this is why we do very little, and I think competitor analysis in general is probably quite overrated. In the same way that market research is overrated, because people kind of tell you, they'll only give you feedback based on what they already know. When of course, there's that saying, right? It's like if you'd asked before Henry Ford what people wanted, they say faster horse and carts. So we gave them a car. They didn't even know a car existed. So I think when it comes to looking over your shoulder too much, it can take your eye off the ball of, like you said, being better than you were yesterday, but actually being more like the others. So a good example again is, we all know, like, Uber is brilliant because it's uncomparable. It cannot be compared. And there's a Rory Sutherland concept of counter benchmarking. So actually, which thrives on the idea that sometimes the opposite of a good idea is an even better idea, or as good idea. And so Uber took the entire way that taxis were done and said, we're going to do the total opposite of that. So there's no cash involved, there's no phone calling involved, the whole process was broken down and done the opposite. Netflix had done the same thing. Amazon Web Services, completely different thing. They made it simple. And so if you compare yourself, you risk yourself then being compared by the market, because they'll go, oh, they're trying to be that but better, they're trying to be that but different. And I think it's better if you can generate a business that actually is so far removed of people's understanding of that market that actually you are running your own race. Blue ocean strategy, essentially.
And it's almost like creating like an so it's like you've got taxis or you've got Uber. It's almost creating that difference, right?
Spot on.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's absolutely key. And again, that's what Perfect Head has done. Yeah. They've gone and they've made a matcha fizzy drink. It's my favorite fizzy matcha drink. No one's saying that. Do you know what I mean? So it's still based off a market trend, but it is totally its own within that. You've got to be brave. You've got to be really brave to do that. It's comfortable to sit in the shadow of another business. You don't get too much attention.
And the youth are always, especially the concept of social media, the concept of agencies, and how almost easy it is to start an agency, but not how easy it is to continue and develop an agency. It's so easy now to just have Wi-Fi, have social media, and start a business from that. It's almost becoming too saturated. What would you say about creating the awe for young people? What would you do if you were 17 again and wanted to break into the business world? You had an interest, you were, reading all the Alex Hormozy quotes, but you didn't know where to start. What would your implementation be?
Yeah, really simple, because we didn't do this at the start, but we did it after our first year, and things started to get a lot better after our first year as a result, which is to aim to be a key person of influence. So pick a specific niche and become the known and go-to person of that niche. We're in this fantastic world now where it's really globalized. We do SEO services for a business in North Carolina because they found a video on LinkedIn, and so I wonder if that, for example, that client from North Carolina would have taken a little bit of a risk on working with a little British agency if we weren't Lumen SEO, just SEO. And so we're going even deeper with that now, where we're building individual industry teams. So we have an account manager for, eco and green businesses. So specifically SEO for eco and green businesses. So a niche within a niche. And that's what I'd say. I would say build a reputation, because of course, if I said, so if you go back 100 years, and if I said, right, you can have 1% of your applicable market, they go, I don't want 1% of my local village or my local town. That's not going to fund my business. But if I said today, you can start a business and dominate, 0.1% of your total applicable market, and you're delivering a digital service, that's the entire world. So you do 0.1% of your applicable of the world, and they all give you £10, 0.1% of the world, you're doing pretty well. And so because of that globalized opportunity, you can start something that's really, really niche, become a key person of influence. I would absolutely hit social media hard. I would build LinkedIn profiles, TikTok profiles, Instagram profiles, YouTube shorts, and be spreading that message, spreading that word about the specific industry you're disrupting, specific industry with a specific solution, and just make a load of noise and be really unapologetic about it as well. If it means you have to be super polarized, go for it, but be a key person of influence. Don't spread yourself too thin. Be the go-to person for a specific thing.
So you'd say, what's the quote? The riches are in the niches.
Yeah, nice.
Perfect. Right. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, mate.
That is episode 3. Stay in motion.
Nice.